Thank you for your important testimony today, Secretary. At this time, members will be recognized for questions in order of seniority, alternating between majority and minority members, and in order of arrival for those who joined us after the hearing convened. You'll be recognized for 5 minutes each in order to allow us to get to as many questions as possible, and I recognize myself for 5 minutes of questions. Madam Secretary, I'd like to talk with you about an issue that poses an imminent threat to the pork industry and livestock production overall. State mandates like California's Proposition 12 are misguided, not based in sound science, and create arbitrary production standards for pork producers. In addition to being burdensome for producers, the final pork product is also more expensive for consumers. Pork prices in California have risen 20% on average since the implementation of Prop 12, and the cost of constructing Prop 12 compliant barns are estimated to be at least $3,400 to $4,000 per sow. With costs like these, neither the producer or the consumer are winning. As we all know, the Supreme Court has weighed in on this matter and asked Congress to act. If we attempted to do so in the Farm, Food, and National Security Act of 2024, language we included would ensure that livestock producers only have to abide by production standards in the state in which they reside, protecting both the rights of an individual producer and states' rights. I know you understand this issue well. Can you talk about the negative impact that state mandates like Prop 12 have had on the pork industry and the dangerous precedent that sets for all livestock production, and what is the risk for both producers and consumers if we do not act?
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's a really important question. It's one that came up a lot in my confirmation process on the Senate side of the House. And one thing I will note is that no one is more of a believer in federalism and the 10th Amendment and our founders' vision of the states' rights to be able to be their own laboratories of innovation. So I'll say that first. But second, when those ideas and those rules and those laws begin to impact other states in such a negative way, that is not what our founders intended. That is not constitutional, and it is not okay. The extreme impact of Prop 12, especially on our pork producers, I believe this is a bipartisan question. We may not all agree in this room, but I think most agree, even on the Democrat side of the House, that it cannot stand. So I stand in full support of your effort. We're also looking at things we could potentially do at the department to mitigate for some of the consequences of this rule that, again, California has the right to do what California wants to do. But the minute that crosses the border and begins to, again, compromise in such a significant way our pork producers, we need to act.
Well, thank you, Secretary. I'd like to turn to a topic that is of increasing concern for our producers, and that is the availability of agricultural labor. Last Congress, the committee convened the Agricultural Labor Working Group led by co-chairs Rick Crawford and Don Davis, and they're working on turning their bipartisan recommendations into legislation, but a legislative solution will not address the immediate needs of the industry. I was encouraged by President Trump's comments at the April 10th cabinet meeting, where he said he would work with the agriculture industry and alluded to a process by which there would be some sort of flexibility provided to farmers and a new process to allow undocumented workers in their jobs to come back in legally. However, recent enforcement actions have begun to impact and even target agricultural operations, and yet there's still a lack of clarity for producers. As I'm sure you know, these employers have a limited ability to question an employee's documentation and are unaware of any issues with their status until an I-9 audit is conducted. What, if anything, are you, Secretary Chavez, DeRemer, and Secretary Noem doing to follow through on the President's comments and making sure that enforcement is not impacting food security, which I think we both agree is a matter of national security?
No, that's right, sir. And in fact, I was with the President yesterday in the Oval Office. I spoke with him again this morning. This was one of the issues that we spoke about. This President's commitment to ensuring that all laws are followed remains paramount, but also combining that with understanding the significant challenges to our ag producers in finding the labor that is necessary to produce not only for their farms to be able to basically stay in business, but also, to your point, this is much bigger than that. This is a national security issue. And the moment that America is not able to feed ourselves any longer, that is the moment that we are no longer the superpower, the preeminent superpower in the world. So that's how very seriously I take this. As you mentioned, on April 10th at our cabinet meeting, the president himself brought this issue up and specifically directed Secretary Chavez DeRemer, who herself is from a farming background, who is our labor secretary, along with myself and Secretary Noem, our DHS secretary, who also is from a farming and ranching background, to ensure that we are doing everything we can to make sure that these farmers and ranchers have the labor that they need. So the president is hyper-focused on that, understanding the challenges currently at hand, but please know that we are in constant daily communication about how to solve for that quickly, while also working in partnership with this committee. And Mr. Chairman, your leadership on this has been really, really important, as have so many sitting in the room today.
Thank you, Secretary. My time